We're now calling the Coastal DC meeting to order. I'd like to ask Director Barrio to lead us in prayer this morning.
If you would bow with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live in this fine city of San Angelo, Texas. We thank you for the opportunity to live in these United States. As we handle the business of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation, we ask that you give us open eyes and open ears. Guide us with your wisdom in the decisions we make over the funds that are entrusted to us to manage. We remember that they are the taxpayers' funds and not ours. They are for the good of this community, not for the benefit of any one individual. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. We're now open for public comment. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, beginning by stating their name and limiting remarks to less than 3 minutes. Board members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The board takes public comment on all regular agenda items during the discussion of those items. We're now open for public comment.
Good morning. My name is Michael Dane. I'm Assistant City Manager with the city. As you're aware, Roland has resigned, and I've been assigned the duty as acting director, so I'll be attempting to fulfill the obligations of both positions, Assistant City Manager and Roland's position, while we actively search for a replacement. We'll get my contact information out to you, and you got a terrific staff, so I don't have any heartburn about anything that's going on. I think we're going to be able to keep things moving. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you'd like to meet or talk about any issue. Thank you.
Thank you,
Michael,
Mr.
we
Ray.
appreciate you
Michael.
doing it. Thank you.
Morning. My name is Mike Boyd. Wanted to give you all an update on the Goodfellow Housing Project that we've been working on for approximately 2.5 years. If you recall, for a lot of previous meetings, we've talked about adding an additional 96 housing units outside the base on the north side, which Hunt constructed some 10 years ago. Additional land was given by the city at that time to build an additional units to replace some of the housing units that are on base that were constructed in 1941. Obviously, that project did not happen. It's been pushed 8 times by Hunt. And the most recent comment we've had from them is they're going to replace a third of those housing units in 2024. So we've been working hard to figure out a way that we could get that housing accomplished because of the growth of Goodfellow. And recently, a man named Greg Rapp, with the Vice President of Operations for Hunt Housing, has been very cooperative. We've made trips to D.C. and we visited with some of the Hunt people, and they have verbally agreed to provide us with a set of plans, a set of specs, a time frame, in order to go ahead and build that housing, of which they would not have any ownership. That ownership would be owned by Tom Green County Housing Authority. The debt would be incurred by the state of Texas in the form of a loan to Tom Green Housing Authority. Don't know the interest rate. That's probably gone up a quarter point or so, but somewhere around 375 is what we talked to the state about. They verbally have agreed to loan us that money. At that time, we were talking about $30 million. All soft cost would be rolled in. The money would be advanced to us in tranches. So there's a lot of really what I consider strong financial incentives to do that. That's still in place to our knowledge. I expect some plans and some time frames within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Hunt has verbally agreed to build the project. They've also agreed to manage the project like they're doing now. We have talked about them purchasing the property sometime during the 30-year amortization period or at the end of that amortization period, and they said they would be open to that option. So it looks like it might be a win-win. I received the plats yesterday from Hunt. We've got to see if there's enough space there to build that. We think there is. Part of the military advisory group is we feel like that area with that many housing units needs a playground and a little small community room for those people to get together and have birthday parties. The neat part about this is if Tom Green County Housing Authority owns it, and it would be a collaboration between the city and Tom Green County Housing Authority, is that we could rent it to the civilian population at the market rates. So we think it's a good opportunity. I just want to give you an update on, it's finally gaining a lot of traction and it's moving. We'll be going to San Antonio next week to meet with the head of housing there that can make decision. I'm going to ask them to give us the land back. That land, as you know, is actually owned by the Air Force. They have an option to either give it back to us or we're going to ask for a 40-year lease, which would exceed the term of the debt. And if we can do that, that's the next big hurdle. We anticipate one of those two options to happen, and then I'll be coming back to you as we get plans and specs to keep y'all informed and see how Coastal DC would play a part in that. Obviously, there'll be a debt shortfall in the amortization of that debt between the rentals and what the debt service would be, and we've got to figure out how we want to do that. But for an investment of somewhere around 23 to 25% on owning the entire project, we feel like it's a good opportunity and something that we need to do. Still got the two missions that we talked about earlier coming to Goodfella, and recently we found out there's another opportunity for another mission that hadn't been announced yet that we might pick up. So I think things are looking really great, but I felt like I need to come to you and tell you that there's been a total change on the construction of that large housing project, and I'll be back at a later date to inform you on more. Any questions?
Exactly is the land.
It's right north, outside the base. I can't think what that street is.
Paint Rock Road.
Paint Rock Road.
Paint Rock.
Right?
Okay, so just across Paint Rock.
So I've got the plan. I'm looking to see if there's any additional property we might need to purchase there, a small amount, 3 to 5 acres.
Right,
But
Goodfellow currently owns that property?
Air Force
Air
owns
Force
that
Base-
property,
Air
yes,
Force
sir.
owns the property, okay.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mike.
Morning, everybody. Michael Looney, San Angelo Chamber, VP of Economic Development. Just wanted to give you just a quick, brief update on several projects that we've got in the works. These are recruitment projects. Project Roll is a Chicago-based steel company that we've been in discussions with since last August. They have an operation in Houston. When they were wanting to come up to see us in August, they had a hurricane to deal with, so they decided they would postpone that for a little while. But they're going to be up here on March the 7th and the 8th to do some site seeking. This would be a rail-based site for a coiled steel operation. That means they bring the steel up on flatbed cars using rail. These things weigh 65,000 pounds each. Right now, this company is importing a lot of its steel from Fort Wayne, Indiana, Chicago, and Houston in cut sheet form. It's very expensive to do, and that's causing a lot of the local regional manufacturers and fabricators to have to increase their prices because the transportation costs are so high. And that's mainly because you can only ship a relatively small amount of plate steel on trucks, and then because we do not have very many exports that go back to Fort Wayne and Houston, they're actually dead loading back to their from where they came. And of course, in the transportation and logistics business, as you guys probably know, that's a no-no. So we're really excited about that. Project Home Care, which we've coded, this is the skilled nursing facility based out of Tennessee that came up in November, which the city council and the county provided rather unprecedented double resolutions of support, virtually guaranteeing their approval for the project by the state. They expect that the state will approve that project to go forward in April, at which time they're going to come up and begin seeking between 10 and 15 acres. It would be about an $11 million project, would hire about 90 employees, and this would be a skilled nursing facility. It's not a retirement home. Project Long Run is a company that we hosted in December. This was a direct result of our SARMA organization. That's the San Angelo Regional Manufacturers Alliance project, which has been very successful. It is a major oil company, considered one of the, quote, majors. Hosted them on December the 9th, and we are currently discussing with them plans for a potential field office and a collaborative project with an existing steel fabrication company. that would result in probably about 60 jobs. And then Project Power, that's an Austin-based energy company. They're going to be up on March 7th to do site selection investigation. And then we also have a final one, and that's Project North, which is a proteins company based outside the state that has expressed an interest in the San Angelo region based on consumption of the product, and also on available facilities and workforce for what they do. They're an agricultural-based company. So again, just the presence of the chamber has been very instrumental in attracting these companies to come look at us, and those that have already closed contracts with us with San Angelo. And we really are becoming even more stalwart and firm believers in our SARMA program, which consists of 110 regional manufacturers, 132 different individual leaders of these companies. And it has become a real leads generation source for us, because these are companies that are telling us what kinds of other companies would be very good to have in our region. And so we're very satisfied with the results so far. Anyway, that's the brief update. Well, I hope it was brief. I'm not sure how brief it really was. I'm not known for being brief, but I appreciate the time, guys. Any thoughts? Any questions?
I'm sorry, this is public comment, and there cannot be an exchange like that.
Very well.
It needs to be an agenda item if we need an exchange.
Very well. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you, Mr. Mike. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michael.
Any additional public comment?
Morning, Bob Schneeman with the Economic Development Department. I have a kind of a happy, sad item that we needed to bring up this morning. As you're all aware, the ACT Work Ready Community Program has been quite a success, and our lead person on that has been a young lady working in our office, and we tend to think of her as part of our staff. And she has decided to take a paying job with the governor's office in Arizona. So Sarah Lamog will be leaving us before the next meeting. So I would really like to recognize all the hard work that we as staff would like to recognize all the hard work that she has done. She's been an incredible asset, and I'd love for her to get up here and say something.
Good morning, board. I thank you for that introduction. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all for letting me come here and call San Angelo my home. It's been such a pleasure to serve this community, to serve this department, and to serve each and every one of you. And San Angelo has set the bar really high for public service, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other public comment? Morning.
Morning.
Ancillary. I just wanted to note, it's obvious with the cake and things on the table back there, but there is a note on the agenda that there will be a reception following the meeting in appreciation of Roland Pena, Economic Development Director. And the recognition is well-deserved. And I hope that you all can attend. I want to thank Roland for his work with the board and thank each member of this board individually, along with Bob Schneeman and staff. In bringing together for economic development for San Angelo, city government, state agencies, private business, local nonprofits, and organizations such as ASU and the Chamber of Commerce. And the synergy you've developed is awesome, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Dan.
Okay, any additional public comment? There being none, we're now closing public comment and moving on to line item 4 on the consent agenda. Consider approving the January 31st, 2018 minutes. Consider approving the necessary corporation disbursements. Consider approving the January 2018 financial statements. Can I get a motion from the board?
I'll make that motion as presented.
Second?
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, motion carries. Moving on to regular agenda item A, update presentation on status of I-14 Gulf Coast Strategic Highway presented by Gulf Coast Strategic Highway Coalition Executive Director Gary Bushell.
Thank you very much. Shortly before Roland left, leaving today, but he asked me if I'd like to.
Mike.
He asked me if I would like to have the opportunity to update this board, and I immediately said I would. I was here to see the county judge and to see the mayor and to update them. And I met yesterday afternoon with the district office at TxDOT to talk about where we were on this project. And I basically gave them the same presentation that I've prepared for you all. On that first slide, is I always describe this as that is not a Photoshop. That is what US 190 looks like in portions of Bell County, which is just outside the front gate of Fort Hood. And our job is to make the rest of US 190 and the other legs of this route look like that portion looks, which is a interstate standard highway with access roads and all of the things that make a freeway a freeway. This concept was developed almost 15, 20 years ago. And I was working on the Alliance for I-69, another interstate highway coalition that's been around even longer, 20 plus years, and trying to get an interstate highway built basically from Texarkana to Houston to Corpus Christi to the border crossings in the lower Rio Grande Valley and Laredo. And John Thompson, who was then county judge of Polk County, said, I've been trying to get upgrades to US 190 going east and west, and the traffic count just doesn't bear it out, and TxDOT doesn't seem to have any really interest in pursuing it. Can you come up with a concept that might give it some more value than just traffic counts? And I thought about the value because I was working on base closure for bases in Corpus Christi and South Texas, and knowing that transportation and good transportation linkages is one of the things that you're graded on for military value at military facilities. And I said, well, I think there's probably value in linking Fort Hood to Fort Bliss to the west and to Fort Polk to the east, and to their strategic deployment ports at the Port of Beaumont and the Port of Corpus Christi. And so that was the concept that we developed at that time and have pursued since then. It has gotten TxDOT's attention because of just the very importance of these facilities to the economy of the state of Texas. Here's the route that we then developed, and the first yellow portion of it has already been designated as I-14. That was done in FAST Act that was passed in December of 2015. TxDOT came to us after we had gotten that designation, having become far more interested in our project than they had been up to that time, and said, have you given any consideration to reaching Fort Bliss by, rather than going on I-10, to going northwest to meet I-20 in the Midland Odessa region, because we think that that would provide more commercial value and more traffic count if you go in that direction. And it was something we had not thought of, and we immediately started looking at it and thought that it was a great idea. And so we now are seeking right now designation in Washington. We hope to add the amendments that would add these designation of the orange lines to the federal infrastructure program, which the administration has now put out the outline on, but the legislation has not been completely developed, which was fine with us because we have a much better opportunity to amend that legislation and do the things in it that we would like to have done, including some additional funding opportunities, in that it's pretty much an outline, not a finished product. And so Larry Myers and Associates, who represents our coalition in Washington, D.C., and who I've worked with since we actually began life as staff members of Senator Lloyd Benson many years ago, working on both public work, transportation, and I ran his legislative department, which is where I met Larry. And we have partnered on projects such as this for most of the years in between. Here's our coalition members as of 2018. You'll see that San Angelo EDC, the City of San Angelo, the Angelo Development Corporation, Tom Green County are all members and all active participants in the effort, and we appreciate that very much. Over the years, we've gotten about $1.3 billion in projects funded up and down this route and all of its legs. We, of course, don't have any yet going to where we want to go on 87 and out to Midland, Odessa, but I met with the TxDOT staff, both the DE and his planning person, and they are both ready to go and enthusiastic supporters of what we're going to be about in the months and years ahead. This is an interesting slide because it really shows the value of an east-west interstate highway. We will link going east-west with 8 interstate highways that go north-south. What's the importance of that? The storms that we have just experienced this past year demonstrated. We need to be able to get people off the coast and inland. And what this east-west route allows you to do is to take any one of these north-south interstate highways, move inland on that north route, and then when you get to what will be I-14, you can move either east or west to get away from the expected path of the storm. It gives great flexibility for evacuation routes, which is one of the things that TxDOT looks at when they're grading projects for funding. Here's a slide that I think demonstrates the reason, in addition for the linkage, but for a interstate highway that goes east and west that's farther from the Gulf than is I-10. First, on the left, you see what I-10 looked like during Katrina, where it was broken in several places during that storm and was out of commission for a considerable length of time, and then also what I-10 looked like during the flooding during Hurricane Harvey in 2017. You'll see the one on the top slide where it's the stretch of Interstate 10 before the storm and then during the flood, which clearly impassable and of no use to interstate traffic. We began I-14 right here with 25 miles of interstate highway that the folks in and around Fort Hood had worked on projects for years to get it to the standard that was necessary to get it an interstate shield. And basically this is the strip that you saw in the initial slide. Here we are at the signing of America's newest interstate highway. That took place in April of last year, and it was a great day. We became officially part of the interstate system that day, and the first time we hung a sign on I-69 was in 2008. It was 6.2 miles, and everybody said, what are you excited about, 6.2 miles? You've got 1,000 miles to build just in Texas. Well, the answer to that is there's something about becoming part of the system that gives the project a credibility that, you know, they're going to figure out how to build this one project at a time, and today we have over 200 miles of I-69 signed. So those will be the way we build I-14. It will be identifying each project, getting it designed, getting it part of the UTP with TxDOT, and then getting the funding to build that project. We want it designated now across 3 states. You see the West Texas leg in orange that you are particularly interested in. And what that will do, that will allow, when we build that portion down 83, which is going to be 50 miles, but a very important 50 miles, because it will link then to Interstate 10, which will link Goodfellow Air Force Base to the bases in the San Antonio area. Joint Base San Antonio has a large military population. Many of them have reason to go to your schools here. The military likes being able to move its personnel on a freeway, an interstate highway, rather than a 2-lane undivided highway for safety reasons. I know at one point over in Fort Polk, the commanding general of Fort Polk said, you know, I know this is going to take a while, but just the fact that someone's talking about linking Fort Polk into the interstate highway system helps me with the Army in terms of our military value. And, you know, you just keep pushing, and we'll continue to say we believe it's important, because we do believe it's important. And then we also, of course, want to get those connections down to the Port of Beaumont, where both Fort Polk and Fort Hood and perhaps even Fort Bliss will deploy through from time to time. The more flexibility, I work with retired General Pete Taylor in the Killeen area, and he says anytime that these commanding generals have greater flexibility in how they move their forces to get to deployment ports, it adds to military value, and it adds to the flexibility that they want to have in the event of emergency. That's a group. Some of them with your mayor and Roland and others that went to Washington D.C. This I guess that was in January time frame, and we had a good delegation from all 3 states. We called on members of Congress. They have now formed an I-14 caucus to kind of give us official standing and stand ready, working with Brian Babin, who helped us 2 years ago with the original designation, a member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee in Conaway, representing Midland, Odessa, who's already introduced legislation. We're going to combine it with the other routes in all 3 states into one piece of legislation, which will be introduced as soon as we have a vehicle to put it on. And we hope that will be sometime later this year. That's our story, and we appreciate you all playing a major role on it. And we'll look forward to working with you over the years as we get pieces of this done. Thank you very much. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Questions from the board? Gary, appreciate the presentation. I know several of us that went up to Washington that trip, we're excited about what's to come. So appreciate everything you're doing for us as well.
Well, and we appreciate you going.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for being part of our effort.
Yes, sir. Okay, now we're moving on to agenda item B, public hearing regarding the expenditure of up to $75,000 for professional services required to develop, design, specifications, and related construction documents for future improvement to Sunken Garden Park, a project authorized under the Development Corporation Act, and authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with the city of San Angelo for such purposes. Today, we're having the presentation by Economic Development Specialist Shannon Scott.
Good morning, Board. As Mr. Carrasco just stated, this is the first public hearing for the project in regards to the expenditure of $75,000 from the Second Garden Park. Just to give a quick overview of the details of this, the original MOU was approved at the COSA DC Board meeting back in January last month and was ratified by City Council at their meeting on February 20th. Again, this is an amount not to exceed $75,000, and this is for the professional services to develop design specifications for the park, as well as related construction documents for future improvements of the park. Again, this is to help make the park more usable and attract more tourists. Any questions on this item?
Questions from the board? Okay, this is a public hearing, so we're now going to open up for public comment, if there's any. There being none, we'll go ahead and close public comment, and we'll need a motion from the board.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Director Barrio, second by Director Coles. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Still staying up there. We're moving on to item C. Consider appointing a staff member as board secretary in accordance with the bylaws of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation, Article 3, Section 2.b, which states the secretary of the corporation shall be a city staff member assigned to the corporation under a contract between the corporation and the City of San Angelo as approved by the Board of Directors. Ms. Shannon Scott.
So this decision is prompted, of course, by the resignation of former Director Roland Pena. The staff is recommending that we appoint our current staff member, our Executive Office Coordinator, Nora Navarez, to take the place of the Board Secretary.
Questions or comments from the board? Okay, if we can get a motion. Motion by Mr. Dindal, second. Dr. Cummings. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Moving on to item D. Consider a resolution of COSA DC Board of Directors authorizing the use of sales and use tax funds in an amount not to exceed $5,975 to provide an economic development incentive to Engine Pro Machines LLC for a project related to business enterprises that create or retain primary jobs as authorized for a Type B corporation under Local Government Code Chapter 501, Subchapter C, and authorizing the Director of Economic Development to prepare an economic development performance agreement with Engine Pro Machine LLC in compliance with the Development Corporation Act in a form approved by the City Attorney's Office, authorizing the COSA DC Board President to execute said agreement and related documents, and recommending to City Council ratification of the incentive and approval of the Economic Development Performance Agreement presented by Robert Schneeman.
Thank you, and thank you for reading that.
Good morning, Bob.
This is a project for Engine Pro Machine. They're located almost across the street from the Business Resource Center at 106 North Chadbourne Street. And basically what they are is a machine shop and sort of an engine specialty shop. One of their biggest customers, or one of their regular customers anyway, are the DPS troopers and their cars. They do a lot of engine work for them, a lot of analytics for them, and that's a portion of what this project is all about. They currently employ 7 primary jobs that are considered, or 7 employees that are considered primary jobs. They intend to make a capital investment of $50,000 to buy a new dynamometer, which will basically give them the capability to analyze the vehicles without actually taking them out on the road. One of the things that Danny Nunez, the owner, pointed out to me is that it's a little tough for them when a trooper says, well, at 120 miles an hour, it's doing this. And the only thing they can do is try to replicate that. which means they've got to take it out and find a place to drive it like that. So this means they can do it in the shop. The financing is going to be through the First Community Federal Credit Union, and their original interest rate was 6.25%. Staff is requesting a grant of $5,975 to be paid to First Community, which would lower that interest rate to 4.25%. You may recall we've done this before with Mrs. Rios Corn Products, and it was quite helpful to them. So staff is proposing that we do the same for this company. A resolution is required to identify this as a project, and then, of course, the economic development agreement is required by law for funding of all projects. And at this point, I'll take any questions.
Questions, board? Okay, and we get a motion?
I will make that motion, and I wish I could tag on some sort of exemption from DBS, thanking us for participation in their support, but that would probably be illegal as all get out. But no, absolutely in support of the law enforcement efforts and giving them the tools that they need through this contractor of theirs. I make the motion, we approve it.
All right, motion by Mr. Barrios, second by? Second. By Director Coles. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Moving on to item E, authorizing the negotiation and execution of a real estate sales contract for the sale of approximately 2 acres of land out of Block 2, Lot 1, Section 1, San Angelo Gateway Addition, the San Angelo Business and Industrial Park to CBJ1 LLC, DBA Munn Properties at a price of $29,000 per acre. The exact location meets and bounds description. Access to the public right-of-way and perimeter of such property is to be as agreed to by the parties and surveyed on the ground. Contract to be in substantially the same form as the attached real estate sales contract with such changes, insertions, and omissions as may be approved by the Costa DC Board President after consultation with the city attorney and recommendation that City Council approve the contract. Presented by Robert Sneeman.
You know we get paid by the word, right?
Yeah, they're quite lengthy today.
Okay. There's actually a fairly significant, fairly significant change to this that we found out after the agenda had already been posted. The original offer was for $29,000 an acre for approximately 2 acres out of Block 2, Lot 1, Section 1 of the industrial park. The offer has been revised to an offer of $29,000 an acre for up to 4 acres, or approximately 4 acres. And this will be out of the remainder of Block 1, Section 1, San Angelo Gateway Addition. The reason for that was the 4 acres we had tentatively identified for an economic development project that has been delayed somewhat. And we so therefore put that property back on the market, and this company, Munn Properties, was more interested in the 4 acres than the 2, so they made us an offer then on the 4 acres. This shows the original 2 acres being the that identified in or cross-hatched in red, and then the 4 acres would be this parcel on the corner of Gateway and Venture. This time I'll open it up for questions.
Questions from the board?
So they were looking at 2 acres at $29,000 each, and then they've now revised that to possibly up to 4 acres.
It's going to be approximately 4 acres. The configuration works out. We would not want to change that configuration very much because of the surrounding properties.
Any other questions from the board? We'll need a motion that is going to consider, as in the agenda item, it notated 2 acres, so the motion will be for 4 acres. Can I get a motion from the board? By Mr. Coles. Can I get a second by John Barrio? All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Moving on to item F. Consider a resolution of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation, Costa DC, reaffirming support for the proposed VCZ development LLC Affordable Housing Apartment Development known as Glen Park Apartments located at 4001 South Chadbourne Street of San Angelo, Texas. Project provided for the allocation of up to $500 and half-cent sales tax revenues in support of the project, providing an effective date and authorizing and directing the board secretary to certify the resolution to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, presented by Mr. Schneeman.
Thank you. This project actually went to City Council last week. There were a total of 6 affordable housing projects that they considered. And of the 6, they chose to support the 2 that we're going to talk about. It's part of the 2018 Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. Board may remember that we've previously done loans to these companies, one being Zimmerman Properties. Both these projects target low-income residents in 2 primary areas where San Angelo has a significant interest. That's the elderly and also the military. And these 2 projects were chosen because of their close proximity to Goodfellow Air Force Base. Of course, each year the criteria varies for achieving a maximum number of points in achieving these tax credits. Community support carries a great deal of weight in the selection process. This year, staff, that would be the affordable housing staff, is recommending resources support in the form of $500 grants to be applied to each project to help achieve the maximum number of points, which gives us then the best chance to get another one of these projects. And of course, those funds would only be paid if the award is given to the particular company. And as I said, City Council approved 2 of the 6 projects at their February 20th meeting. 2 projects, Glen Park Apartments. This is located at the intersection of South Chadbourne and Cristobal Highway. So it's very close to Goodfellow Air Force Base. It proposes 60 family housing units, 36 2-bedroom, and 24 3-bedroom units. This is kind of an idea of what those units would look like. And again, it's 36 2-bedroom and 24 3-bedroom. Second project, the Trails, is actually north of Goodfellow. You can see a small portion of Goodfellow Air Force Base here. And the main gate is about another block in this direction, the main north gate. Again, it's oriented towards Goodfellow. This project would propose 12 1-bedroom, 36 2-bedroom, and 24 3-bedroom units. And again, these were both projects supported by City Council. Bob Solis from Neighborhood and Family Services is here if you would like to ask him any questions.
Bob, could you go back to the map? Showed me. There you go. Okay, that's South Chadbourne and what?
Cristobal Road.
Okay.
This is South Chadbourne, and then this is Cristobal.
Stripes is just to the north of that.
Yeah, so across the intersection there?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Motion for line item F.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Cole, second
Second.
by Director Dindal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G, consider a resolution of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation reaffirming support for the proposed Generation Housing Development LLC Affordable Housing Agreement development known as The Trails, located at 2600 block of Era Street, City of San Angelo, Texas, project providing for the allocation of up to $500 and 1/2 cent sales tax revenues in support of the project, providing an effective date and authorizing and directing the board secretary to certify the resolution to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs.
And this is the second of the 2 that we just covered.
Motion is
accept.
All right, motion by Dr. Cummings,
Second.
second by Mr. Barrio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Moving on to item H, presentation of alternative construction bids by Crossland Construction Company, Inc., dated February 14th, 2018, addressed to AEP Service Corporation for board review and consideration of a resolution selecting and approving one of the alternative bids pursuant to the real estate sales contract by and between AEP Texas, Inc. and Cosa DC dated October 11, 2016 for the purchase by AEP of a 51.897 acre tract of land at the San Angelo Business and Industrial Park and Development Agreement with AEP effective January 9, 2018, provided for construction of utilities and other infrastructure within the industrial park to the AEP tract. Presented by Mr. Sneeman.
Okay, as the board is aware, AEP purchased about 52 acres in Phase 2 of the industrial park, which is currently in the unimproved portion of the park. The contract with AEP requires the Cosa DC provide all utilities and infrastructure to their property. And since AEP is on a very short timeline, they pretty much need to be in their building by September of 2018. We brought an item to Cosa DC, the staff brought an item to Cosa DC, in form of a development agreement with AEP that they would have their contractor construct the public improvements, water, sewer, streets, drainage, required to get their project finished by the time that they needed it. Cosa DC approved that agreement on December 13th, 2017, and the agreement was signed on January 9th of 2018 at a cost of not to exceed $750,000, which was our engineer estimate at the time for those improvements. Proposed improvements for this portion, we're calling Phase 2.1, would be only those supporting AEP, and the remainder of the improvements then in Phase 2, or the first portion of Phase 2, would be completed once an EDA grant is finally approved, and we're calling that Phase 2.2. Staff received an initial proposal from the AEP contractor to do all of the drainage improvements and all of the infrastructure improvements, water, sewer, streets, everything, including a culvert crossing of Gateway Drive across a fairly large drainage channel. And I've got an exhibit I'll show you in a minute. That original proposal came in at $3.1 million. So staff requested 2 additional proposals. Proposal number 2 included only enough drainage improvements because the drainage was by far the largest component. There's a lot of earthwork that has to be done to get the channel and the detention ponds completed. So proposal 2 included only enough drainage improvements required to complete the channel crossing of Gateway Drive, and that came in at a cost of $1.2 million. And again, the remainder would be deferred to Phase 2.2. Proposal 3, and staff spoke with city engineers and also with our engineers, Parkhill, Smith, and Cooper, and they are all in agreement that we can do this without the drainage improvements as long as the drainage improvements get done at some point in the not too distant future. So that third proposal, exclusive of any of the drainage improvements, is $582,809. And as the slide says, that's deferring all drainage to Phase 2.2. Generally, staff believes that we can get better unit costs by including all of that excavation and drainage work in a larger project. And Phase 2.2 would be that larger project. So if the unit costs go down, hopefully we would get a better price for the drainage work. There's no guarantee of that, but that's our aim. So staff is recommending approval of the $582,000. However, that's up to the board. This is a diagram basically that shows the areas we're talking about So we have the detention and drainage shown there in green. You can see where the AEP site is located. Phase 2.1 initially was all the area that's in green and also the area there in the sort of aqua color. And then the darker gray would be phase 2.2. There's also shown on this slide the limits of what the partial drainage option would be, which is basically enough drainage to create the culvert crossing here. So it would be the extension of Gateway Drive, which we're going to do in any of those, and also just enough drainage excavation to get that channel crossing in. That looks like in the form of of the engineering plans. The area that's sort of clouded in red would be excluded from the project. And I'm sorry, this is looking with upstream being this direction. So that direction would be towards the interstate. I mean, towards the highway. So AEP would be located here. Just gives you an idea, the proposed contours that are shown on here give you the idea of the depth of the excavation that's required and hence the high cost of the proposed improvements for drainage.
I have a couple of questions. Proposal
Yes, sir.
3 will keep AEP on track?
Yes, sir.
Okay, for their September timeframe. On the grants that you said that I guess you would be seeking for Phase 2.2, is that matching funds, or how is that grant process?
It's matching funds with a total project cost of $2.5 million. So Costa DC would be responsible for $1.25 million of that, and the grant would be for $1.25 million. Gives us a total of $2.5 million. If you took the $1.25 million plus the $750,000, that sort of fits into the frame. That's where the $750 partially came from. That fits in the framework of what Costa DC initially approved almost a year ago now.
Do they consider the 500 that we're putting in on 2.1 phase, or that's?
We're not allowed to consider that unless the only way that we might be able to do that is if we withheld bidding the EDA portion of the project until everything was approved. It's a federal government project, a federal government grant, and they're very, very stringent in how you bid a project and everything. So we're pretty much having to really follow their guidelines step by step.
And one last question, sorry, Board. How long is that process? I mean, once we get started, I mean, how with the grant writing process, I mean, or the grant process, how soon is that? You said in a close.
Yeah. We have preliminary approval of the grant now. It's a little bit unclear because of the continuing resolution with the federal government and all that. And it was actually, the approval was actually held up for a while. They're moving it forward as step by step as they can, but we're still answering some questions, and they're in the final grant approval process now. We've been told by the grant writers and by the EDA staff that they've never seen a project get this far through the process and not be approved. Hopefully, we would be able to bid this by early summer. And we don't want to be first on that, by the way.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board?
This is just a look into the future. Who will be responsible for maintaining the right-of-way, mowing and keeping the mosquito out of it and such?
All of the public improvements, the drainage channel, and all of that, and the street right-of-way, water, sewer, the actual street itself, will all be dedicated to the city. So that will become a city maintenance consideration.
We're really looking for approval of which proposal? 2? 3. Okay, 3. Well, I will make a motion that we proceed with proposal 3.
A motion by Director Barrio,
Second.
second by Director Coles. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Okay, moving on to Closed session, item 6, executive session under the provision of Government Code Title 5, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government, Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirement that meetings be open under the following sections. A, Section 551.071, 2, consultation with attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter regarding statutory obligations of the board. It is now 9:26, and Costa DC is breaking into executive session. Executive session, moving on to item 7, follow-up and administrative issues. Consider items discussed in executive session if necessary. There being none. Moving to item B, announcements and consideration of future agenda items. I'd like to note, it was also mentioned in public comment, that a reception will follow the meeting in appreciation of Roland Pena, Economic Development Director. With that being said, we are now motion for adjournment. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, by Mr. Barrio, second. By Dr. Cummings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Costa DC Board meeting is now closed.